It's a pretty damn good looking belt buckle. Today is August 25th. It is just about 10 days after the Leadville 100. And let's get another look at this buckle. This buckle means a lot. You guys have seen the process that went into this. You guys have seen the sacrifices that have went into this of what I've shown you. And man, is it a good feeling calling a shot and going for it and being courageous enough to go for something like this and doing it with so many question marks coming into play. Today, I'm going to be answering a lot of your guys' questions about the Leadville 100. It's going to be very insightful, a lot of information packed in this. And it'll be good to finally debrief it a little bit. I do have a video, like a full documentary, short documentary coming out about the race that my sister is editing at the moment. So we'll get this video out and answer any questions that you guys have. So I'm going to kind of just go rapid fire here with a lot of the questions you guys asked me on Instagram and go over the important ones. I'm not going to answer every single one, and all the questions will be popped up right there. Some videos may pop up. All just depends on the question. So first one, did you have anything you told yourself in order to keep running even when you wanted to stop? It comes back to, I've said it in the past, ultra marathons come back to the basics of running, to the basics of movement. And the basis of making a yes or no decision, which is, can I still do the act that I'm setting out to do, which is moving in the forward direction. When you break running down, when you break trail running down, anything down into its bare form, it is, can I still move forward? And the answer to that was always yes. No matter how much my body wanted to stop, I was still able to move forward. Next question is, can you go over the training plan? That is what the recent 10 episodes on YouTube are for. I mean, I could tell you that I averaged, I'm just looking at my board over here, I averaged in the bulk of training about 65 to 75 miles, which is great. That's what I wanted. 80 miles was peak week, and we gained just about 15,000 feet of gain. So I gained a lot and ran not that many miles as somebody would for an ultra marathon, but the gain is what really did it for me. My quads didn't even lock up until I want to say I felt it at mile 85 is when my quads were really locking up, but not anything crazy. So overall, the gain, all the up and down on the same hills does pay off. How long were your aid station stops? So I gave my crew in a debrief the night before roles, and one of my friends' role, my friend AJ, was timer, and he was also in charge of recording and posting my stories that you guys saw throughout the race. So AJ has been a real one in this whole process. Even in Last Man Standing last year, he came, stayed up for 24 hours, did all the live streams and everything. And it's great. It's great to have somebody like that in your corner. So he was a timer. I had 5 to 8 minutes at every aid station, almost every aid station. The ones where my crew wasn't at, I just kind of breezed through. If I needed to, I would re-up on certain things. The aid station that I took the longest at was Twin Lakes out and Twin Lakes in. I took about 10 minutes at Twin Lakes out because I realized my oxygen was down to 79. And so we had to quickly revive myself before going out for 7 hours up and down Hope Pass, where my family wouldn't see me for the longest time. So there was a little bit of a worry there. You know, I saw the face of my girlfriend, my mom, my dad, and everybody else as they sent me off, knowing how bad of shape I was in at mile 38. I was still physically good to run, but internally things were off, and my stomach wasn't cooperating. So there's going to be a little bit of worry, but we got back and I spent a little bit more time there. That's where I did my shoe change and everything else, and then ended up putting forth my best leg ever with Isaac for those next 16 miles maybe. Did altitude make a difference for you? Did you sleep? And how do you manage nutrition during a 100-mile race? These are all good questions. Let's put them together. Did altitude make a difference for you? Yes. I was not able, so altitude is, oxygen gets thin, altitude shoots your heart rate up right away. And with the races with this much gain, it is hard to hold a conversation. It is hard to keep your heart rate low. Altitude also is a silent killer. Altitude will dehydrate the hell out of you, even if you're not sweating. Altitude will turn your stomach over. Altitude will create altitude sickness, where you are nauseous, have a headache, you're not able to stomach anything. This is everything that altitude has an effect on. And I think the hardest part in a race in an ultramarathon is managing your stomach. And the fact of altitude being one of the key factors is not the best. So yes, altitude made a difference for me, big time. I wasn't able to stomach anything over and back of Hope Pass. And then my stomach settled, and then time passed, and I threw everything up at mile 88 and went empty for the next 3.5 hours without anything. Did I sleep? No time to sleep, man. No time to sleep. Did I want to? Yeah, but no time to sleep. How do you manage nutrition during a 100-mile race? So I created a Google Doc that is 21 pages long of everything that I would be doing and food I would need at every aid station, so my crew could just look at it and go. I wanted to take the thinking out for them and for me, and just so that they can execute, being as efficient as possible. I told them that I want them to be like an F1 crew. Everybody has a role, tire guy, the jack guy, whatever it is. Like, you have your role, and we're going to execute. And so fueling strategy or nutrition during a 100-mile race, you want to get on it early. Sodium intake, I was aiming for 500 to 600 milligrams an hour. I think I only checked that off for the first 20 miles of the race, I want to say, 23 miles. And then carbs, I was aiming for, I think, 70 grams of carbs an hour, if I'm not mistaken. But again, was only able to do that for the first 20 miles of the race, 23 miles of the race. So didn't go as planned, but as long as you're close to it, that was enough for me to keep going. What was your running strategy? Example, 15 miles slow, 5 miles hard. What was my running strategy? So there wasn't an exact strategy. I managed what I could, and I made my own decisions of, okay, should I jog this uphill? Okay, should I walk this flat? Everything was just going off of feel and making sure that I was at the aid stations at the right checkpoints and time cutoffs. I gave myself ETAs for every aid station to know if I'm behind or ahead of my pace, and my average pace, my cumulative pace overall. And as long as I was on pace, then I'm doing the right strategy. A lot of the inclines I walked. I didn't use my poles until I got to Twin Lakes, which was for Hope Pass and back. So I didn't really have a strategy until when I had a pacer where I would say, okay, let's jog for 60 seconds and then we'll do a speed walk. My speed walking pace was like a 13-minute pace for the most part. And I was able to jog at like an 8:30, low 9s, which was great towards, deeper into the race. That was from 62 to 78, 76. So yeah, if you could do anything different about your prep, what would you do? This is a good question. I think I would climb a little bit more than I did. I'm really happy with the prep. I'm really, really happy with what I did. Again, coaching this myself, there was question marks. You're going to question everything because it's out of your own interest, your own decision. You don't have to do everything you tell yourself to do. It's easier when somebody's telling you to do something. I would climb more. I would work on, honestly, I would throw in a little bit of hill repeats. Getting the legs used to turning over of just driving up these hills. And I would attack more areas that I needed to in the gym. Some more race-specific movements, like should have been on deficit reverse lunges earlier, sled push, sled pull, a lot of quad dominant stuff, and deeper stretch in the glutes and quads. But yeah, I was very happy with the prep. That's about it. Are you going to do this race again? No. No. I approach every race that I'm going to go for my goal. And even if I don't hit my goal, if I cross that finish line doing everything I could have, I'm happy. In this case, we hit the goal. So, and I was so incredibly happy with the effort I put forward in this race that I really don't want to do it again because I don't want to tarnish anything that happened. Unless something changes in a few years, but I got to get fast. I want to get faster, and I got some big goals. Which mile took the longest and why? Backside of Hope Pass, mile 55 and 56. This is 55, 56 miles into a race, and I clocked a 37-minute mile. I'll throw it up right there. And a 36-minute mile, and I think a 35-minute mile, something like that. It's very defeating when you look at your watch and you see a 37-minute mile, and you're doing as best you can, and that's as best you can at 55 miles in. Keep in mind, at this part of the race, you're climbing 2,500 feet in 2 miles. Equivalency to a treadmill, I would say that's over a 20% incline for 2 miles. I found myself sitting on rocks, bent over my poles, and just really, really at a low point. This is actually the point in the race where I told myself that my goal, my A goal, is out the window. I'm not going to hit 24, 25. Once I get back down, we'll reassess. Maybe 26, maybe 27. Yeah, it's the low points are really low in races like this. But I think an ultra is the ability to bounce back, the ability to troubleshoot and bounce back. And that's what we did. Those moments where you wanted to give up, what pushed you mentally? I wanted to give up a lot in this race. I think this was the closest I ever was to DNFing. As close as I would get, though, I don't think that would ever happen unless I didn't make it cut off or my body just shut down. I will never voluntarily say I'm done unless it is for a safety reason. I'm at that point in my career where there's nothing that really is going to break me unless I am broken. As crazy as that sounds. What pushed you mentally? I was talking to God a lot. And I think just the idea that I could keep moving forward, that I could keep just stepping, even how slow the steps were in that 37-minute mile, 36-minute mile, like how slow I was stepping, how many breaks I was taking, I was still progressing in the forward direction, which means I'm not done yet. And although my stomach was getting worse, although my breathing was getting worse, although my oxygen was dropping lower, and I'm only halfway through the race, I really banked it all on, can my crew revive me when I get back to Twin Lakes at mile 62? And there was a risk, but we did just that. And I think a big part in this is setting checkpoints for yourself. So on big climbs and stuff, maybe set a checkpoint for the first switchback, for breaking the tree line, for getting to the top of Hope Pass. That was my big checkpoint for the backside. Once I got over the top, I'm like, okay, now a new part of this race has begun, and kind of breaking it up into bite-sized bits. Go-to song. This is from my guy Dan, who has his ultra actually very soon. Go-to song right here. One More Day, Sons of Saturday. Here. That's what it is. This is on my Praise the Lord playlist. I listen to all worship music for Hope Pass. Just, it really grounds me and makes me feel even more grateful than I already am, just to be in a beautiful place like Colorado, seeing views I've never seen before, and the ability, just what Sean says on that shirt, man, how much of a blessing it is to suffer. The ability to just feel pain, the ability to feel anything, really grounds you. And a lot of this music I was listening to was reminding me of that, just to be grateful in the highs and the lows. It did get me through a lot of good parts of this race, a lot of hard parts. Did my headphones die while I was using it for like 3-4 hours? Yeah, which was unfortunate because I got it with medium battery. So that wasn't. What was your favorite and least favorite part? My favorite part was seeing my crew every time. So I didn't get to see them at every aid station. If you want to be specific, my favorite part was seeing my girlfriend, and my girlfriend was a good part. She just really, there was a lot of points where there's in videos too. I might be able to throw it up here if I could find it, but I just kept saying I just can't wait to see her, because she just, I found somebody who really has the ability to brighten up no matter how I'm feeling. And that's powerful in a race like this. And so even just seeing her face, her smile, anything like that, it lit me up. It really did. It really helped so much more than she knows. And that's really what I was looking forward to, especially coming down from Hope Pass. And then I saw the rest of my crew behind her. And then, yeah, this is my favorite part actually right here. When I came back into Twin Lakes, I saw my dad and Ed. First, they came out, and then I turn the corner and I see my girlfriend, and then I see behind just this straightaway of people, and not kidding you, the entire way running through it, everybody is screaming, Matt, chanting Matt, go Matt, recording, and I'm like, I started crying a little bit, because I'm like, you guys don't understand how low I am right now, and that really changed a lot in that part of the race. It was much bigger than myself, and yeah, I'm just kind of reliving through it. That was the best part, and I think my least favorite part was the part right before that, was Hope Pass, or the last 12 miles of the race. After I threw up, I was empty. I was an empty, broken human being, just moving my feet, and whew, yeah, and yeah, I was really at a low point there. I couldn't stomach anything. It's hard when there's a time pressure in an ultra marathon, and the last thing you want to do is move fast, let alone move, and you have to hit a certain time. That was my least favorite part, but in turn ended up being my favorite part as well, because I was so proud of how much I pushed. Yeah, least favorite part was the climbs of Hope Pass. I like these next few questions. What's your biggest lesson you learned and takeaway from this experience for your next? That I have a lot of fight left in me, even when I feel like I don't. I've done a lot of things. I've proven to myself a lot of times that I can do things, that I can do hard things, that I could suffer, and I could suffer well. And this is just adding to it. A lot more confidence. This is probably the most confident I've been when it comes to running ever. And I'm 3 years into this, and it's just a beautiful thing to see. It really is, and just feel like I can do anything right now in the least cocky way. When did you know you could do it? This is the part that I was just talking about before that sucks, because there was the time pressure at the end that I had to push, and that's the last thing I wanted to do. And I think when there were 5 miles left, we were like, okay, we should be able to. And then the last 3 was where we set the head. I was like, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. As long as I don't drop right now, we're going to do it. But I was fighting a line of pushing. I was right below the line of pushing too hard when my body was just about to shut down. And I did not want that to happen, but I also needed to push as hard as I could. So I was battling a fine line, and those internal decisions, internal thoughts of what the outcome was going to be. And yeah, I just did everything I could. I did everything I could. I really did. What was the biggest surprise during the race? It sounds contradicting because I've talked about it for 9 episodes in a YouTube series, but the altitude. You could study it, you could talk about it, but because I've only been out there once, I didn't realize the actual effects it would have on my stomach and my body and my breathing and my oxygen and everything else. That it really made me understand why this race is so damn hard. Especially everybody I was talking to during the race it was either they were from Denver or they were from someplace of altitude, besides one guy, Josh, I'm pretty sure his name was. And Josh, if you're watching this, thank you again for sharing all those miles with me, man. It really helped pass the time. He was from Ohio, if I'm not mistaken, right at Columbus, I think, which is flat. And so we were talking about that a little bit. He's the only one I talked to that was from a flat area and a place not of altitude. So that it's so hard to get ready for something like this when you don't live in it. It really is. No matter what you do, you can do everything. You can do a hypoxia chamber. You can do everything. But being there is the best way to get ready for this. And if you're not there, there's going to be so many questions coming into the race, and you will not know what you're going to be able to do unless you've done it before. And that was what caught me by surprise, because a lot of times your training is a direct result, or I guess a direct correlation of your result. It's you put in the work, there's a good chance you're going to get the result, unless your stomach turns race day, so on and so forth. My stomach has not had a history of turning on race day. It's been good enough to get me through the finish line at the time I wanted to. This was not the case. This was the first time I've thrown up in a race. This was the first time I wasn't able to stomach anything for hours. This was the first time I was only able to take half an inhale for 12 to 13 hours in a race. The altitude kills you from the inside out. It really does. It really, really does. And that was the biggest surprise. How important is your spirituality to you in times like this? Very important. Very important, because you're alone for a lot of this race. And I often find myself talking to God and just saying thank you for everything as I'm in these races alone. So it sounds corny, but I'm never really alone in the race, because anytime I do feel alone where there's nobody physically next to me, I know that I can talk to him and I don't feel alone anymore. I feel like as if there is somebody helping me along the way, my biggest fan helping me along the way. It all started with the Ironman on my bike ride, finishing up in 6 hours. I was just talking to God the entire time. God, just please let me get off this bike with no pop tire. Please, 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 please. And I will do everything in my power to finish this race as strong as I can. Just get me off this bike. And that has just been a common theme through a lot of my races. I remember in Chicago, the last 5 miles, I was listening to worship music and just saying out loud, just like, thank you for allowing me to feel this, allowing me to be here, allowing me to do this. And it really just, it gives you that little bit of motivation, but motivation doesn't last long. So yeah, very important, because if I don't have him, I have nothing, essentially. Leadville or last man standing? I'm not sure if they're asking what's harder or what I would prefer. I prefer last man standing. There's a good chance I'm going to be doing last man standing next year at the BPN one. I'll get into that. Leadville is logistically and physically a lot harder. Last man standing, I will say, is mentally a lot harder because there's no finish line. In any race you toe the line where there's no finish, that will eat at you. Leadville, I knew 100 was the end. Leadville, I knew getting over Hope Pass was the hardest part. Leadville, I knew my stomach was going to turn because of the altitude. So although there's a lot more question marks in Leadville, I would say last man standing is mentally a little bit harder because it really tests your will to keep going. It really does. But Leadville will break you in half physically. And Leadville will instill fear in your brain that you are going to die, that you are not going to make it to the finish. There was this one, I went to an event, and this guy, Kaj Larson, Navy SEAL, part of SEAL Team 6, told us, he said, the most common point in Hell Week when people drop is day 2. When they're sitting on a cement wall looking out into the ocean and hearing about what they're going to be going through and what they're going to be doing. And fear will promote those thoughts of, I can't do this. I'm not going to survive this. I'm not going to be able to do this. And that is what will break you. With this race, I'm climbing up Hope Pass, fighting for my life. My stomach is turned. I feel like I'm going to throw up with everything I'm doing. The altitude is really getting to me. I'm feeling altitude sickness. The thoughts of how am I going to recover from this? How can I run 40 more miles after this? That can push somebody to break them. But then, like I said earlier, I come back to, can I move forward? Yes, we're going to focus on that. Screw everything else. I made all these little decisions to not eat, to not force a gel down, so that I could get back to my aid station and recover and recover my stomach, really, and have my team troubleshoot it. What's the realistic commitment needed to finish in 25 or 30 hours? I could make a whole video on this because I'm going to tell you how it's not about the realistic commitment. It's about who you are and what you are about that will help you finish in 25 hours and 30 hours. This race has a close to 60% DNF rate. This race hosts some of the top ultra runners in the world, and some of those people don't finish. Some of those people DNF. So what does that mean? You know, somebody who's at the top of their game, preparing as much as they can, they're still DNFing. It's not so much how much you prepare physically, which it is obviously, but what you have, the evidence you've built up mentally to do something like this. I would say that is how you prepare realistically. How long would you need to finish in 25 or 30 hours? I can't say, because what it looked like for me may be different for somebody else. Somebody may need a whole year to train for something like this. It just depends on where you're coming from. But I'm a big fan of some time pressure and beating the odds. So I would rather try to go for a 25-hour finish with a 10-week prep and see what I'm about, and die trying in a way, not actually, but just die trying. I think you learn more doing it that way. But be safe. We got 2 questions here. What's it like coming from sea level to race Leadville? Did you do any altitude specific training? And then how many times did you have to change socks and shoes? I changed socks and shoes once. So I was supposed to do it at the 38-mile mark to climb up Hope Pass, but my crew wasn't allowed to follow me across the river, so I had to go up with the same shoes I ran in previously. Those are the Solomon S-Lab Genesis. Love them. I will use them for every trail race I ever do. And then I swapped in to socks-wise, actually. I used Swiftwick Trail XL, I think, socks, and then Sweet Feet that I got literally 3 weeks ago, and use those. And I used my Mafati X's for the last 40 miles. What's it like coming from sea level to race Leadville? I kind of talked about this already. It's going to punch you in the mouth. You don't see a lot of people that do it. Here's the thing, and this isn't to toot my own horn. Based off evidence of who I've talked to, you don't see people who come from literally New Jersey, New York, sea level. Not only that, who have only experienced altitude once or less, or at all, who have asthma, who have an existing breathing condition that's been going on for a little bit. I don't want to say breathing condition, I'm not going to diagnose it, but there's been something going on where in my runs, I haven't been able to take a full inhale. And now I'm going to altitude where the oxygen is going to be thinner. There's a lot of factors where you're not going to find a lot of people that are going to be doing that. And this, again, this isn't to toot my own horn, but the bare minimum, not a lot of people are going to be coming from New Jersey, New York, sea level to do this race. And if they do, they are going to struggle. I was struggling. You might not. Your altitude may not kill your body as much. Who am I to say? But I want to prepare for the worst for this part. Last few questions. A lot of you asked, would you prep for it again? No, I'm very happy with my time. I don't really find myself sticking to one niche. I love just finding something that's harder than what I did, either whether it's going faster or further, and if it's something I've never done before. So this was both of that, and I got to check it off, which is great. Most memorable mile. Most memorable mile, that 37-minute mile. I remember how defeating that was, how defeated I felt looking down at my watch and seeing that. Mentally, it broke me. I'm like, I never have seen this in my life. I've seen a 37-minute mile on my watch. But what's a mile in a 100-mile race? What's a mile in a 100-mile race? Matt, you already did 48 miles. What's one more mile like that? What's sacrificing 2 slow miles to have a sub 25-hour finish, right? A lot of us get caught up in the moment and feel that 1-second decision in the moment, like, hey, a 37-minute mile, okay, I'm DNFing, I'm done. How am I supposed to run 40 more? Well, you ran 40 more to get there. Who's to say that those 2 miles isn't just going to set you up for those next 60 or whatever it is, you know? So you can't get caught up in the moment. You got to put your feelings aside. How was your crew set up, and what the plan was for the aid station? So my crew, there were 7 of us. We had a crew chief. We had he was the main voice. Here's the thing. You want somebody who's the main voice. A lot of times when you have a bigger crew, voices overlap and it just becomes a mess. You need to have a plan. You want to have a crew chief. The second voice would be my girlfriend, Elizabeth. She would be asking me questions. She is also a physical therapist. So that helps out a lot. My mom and my dad, they were in charge of refueling. My dad was just overseeing everything as well, driving the car. They were in charge of refueling my pack, so I told them exactly what they have to put into each bottle and how are they going to fill up my water pack. So again, they had their job, they knew what they had to do. My friend AJ was in charge of recording on my stories and setting the timer, so he was the timer guy. You don't need this many people. I was just blessed enough to have this many people come. Ed was my pacer, who also helped out with, again, just everything else. Anytime anybody needed or we needed an extra hand, he would jump in. Isaac as well, Samantha as well. Emma was videographer. She was filming and helped out with a little bit of everything. On top of that, that is it. So that's my crew. That's a lot of people. I know. But everybody had their own role, and I created a full document to help them with that so that they didn't have to think about what they had to do. That's all the questions of the Leadville 100. One more look at it. What a beautiful thing. That was the hardest thing I've ever done mentally, physically. I was tested to my limits and almost pushed over my limits. My body was almost pushed over its limits. But this is the best I've felt after any big effort, soreness-wise, health-wise, internally, externally. And that's a testament to the training. And I'm so glad that I documented this whole thing so that you guys can take something away from this, where I documented someone at my fitness level training for something like this in the conditions that were not ideal, did the time I wanted to do, got my belt buckle, and I feel great after. So I hope there's a lot you guys can take away from this training block. There's a lot you guys can take away from this in general. In terms of what's next, first, we have a sub 245 marathon, wine glass marathon. That's going to be interesting. I'm going to document that as well. But we have a race that I'm just waiting for confirmation on that I'm going to try to win. And I don't go into races trying to win. I'm going to try to win this race. I'm going to try to hold a 7:45 minute per mile pace, 7:45 to 7:50 minute per mile pace for 50 miles. Crazy? Yeah. I've kind of disassociated from what's actually crazy though, because what may be crazy to the majority is not crazy to me anymore, and I have to remind myself of that. And I'm not going to say the race, but I will say it once I get confirmation, and I will document how I'm going to be training for both, because they're both a month away from each other. October 5th is going to be the sub 2:45, and then the 50 miler is going to be exactly a month later. And we're going to shake things up. We're going to shake things up. I have such an exciting September. I'm going to Austin, Texas next week. I'm going to Tokyo. Well, first, I have such an exciting next few weeks / months. I'm going to Last Man Standing this weekend for my sister and my client, Sam, and client and friend, Henry, and a bunch of other friends that are running it. Next week after that, I'm going to Austin, Texas for a wedding. Going to have some fun there. I might make a little video on that. The week after that, going to Tokyo with Brooks Running, and I can say it because I signed the contract. We're going for the Track and Field World Championships. I'm getting flown out, and I'm going to make a whole video about that, because what the hell is that? Why am I getting flown out for these things? And then 2 weeks after that, I have a bachelor party in Miami, and then the week after that, I have my marathon. So is it an ideal road leading up to the marathon? No, but things have never been ideal, and it's what I've been used to. And if there's a will, there's a way, and I will always find a way. So I can't say I'll see you guys in the next video, but I'll see you guys in the next series. So thank you for everything again. One more look. Ah, I love it. I love it. All this was so worth it. All of this was so worth it for that. Okay. I'll see you guys.